Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Sabby BG Show, and I'm your host, Sabby BG. I'd like to welcome you to our special segment, Proudly Pardesi, a unique segment where we highlight Desi people from Pardes who are making us really, really proud. Today, we have an amazing guest, Amin Dhillon. Amin is a Canadian on-air host, producer, podcaster, and MC. She's also a former Miss India Worldwide Canada. She's such a humble person, yet so talented that I watch her content to learn a lot from her as well. Amin is now making some bigger strides, and that's what I wanted to bring her on this platform for and talk about her new dreams and why she aspires to go after them. With that, I want to welcome you, Amin. How are you doing today?
I'm good. It's so good to see you. It's been a while. So thank you so much for having me on the show.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about how are you keeping up with what's going on in the world and how are you keeping your sanity?
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. But I remember I thought it was only going to be for like maybe a couple weeks. Then it was like, oh, maybe for a few months. We're more than a year into this. So I forget what life was like almost. But I miss it. I miss it. It's good now, actually. Now I think I've gotten used to kind of really working on my own. It's been great because now I have no excuses. I can only focus on my goals. So that's a blessing that you're able to 100% devote yourself to whatever you've always wanted to do, but never had time to. But I do miss going to the occasional events, being able to network, like, how we used to run into each other and just to see my loved ones in person.
No, I know. Last year, I used to tell my friends as well that people that have big goals, big dreams, big visions, they're going to leverage everything out there, right? Even if they're going to find a way to figure out what they want to do, even in bad times. And I think a lot of that, stuff that you're doing that we want to talk about today, a lot of the stuff that I was doing, I think, it gave us some time to sort of look at what we really want to do and what the next 10, 15, 20 years of our lives should look like. So definitely we want to talk a little bit about that. But I do have a question for you because I've always known you as a media person. You're very well known in the media circuit in Canada, and I'm sure in other cities across North America as well. You've interviewed some heavy names: Anupam Kher, Jazz Dhami, Arjun, Jay Sean, and many others. You've also done modeling. You've your own YouTube show as well. I think many younger women look up to you and they want to know about your journey. So why don't we start from the very beginning? Tell us a little bit about you. I know you're not from Ontario, so tell us a little bit about where you come from and how did you enter media and how did this whole thing happen?
Well, it's quite the story. So I'm originally from Winnipeg, born and raised there. And I was really far from the media world. Like I thought I was going to be an entrepreneur. I went to school for business. And I really thought like one day I'll own my own business. I really felt that was going to happen. So after I graduated from university, I ended up going to India. It was my first time in a very long time. I just didn't have time before, right? Like when I was in school, I couldn't go. And then in the summers, I was always, getting some work experience or was part of some sort of like internship. So I never had like really time off. So once I graduated, I had a job offer from another company. And I was like, oh, let me go to India. This is the most time I'll ever have. So I think I went to India, I want to say maybe for a month or so. And it was my first time since I was a kid. And I was shocked at how different India was from when I remembered it as a kid. And when I was there, the Miss India pageant was happening. And like, I didn't realize how big of a pageant it was because over here, we like pageants, but we don't like idolize it, right? Over there, like if you think of any of the ex Miss Indias, like Aishwarya Rai, Priyanka Chopra, Lara Dutta, like it was like on TV. It was a big deal. If they won, it would change their lives forever. A lot of times it opened up so many doors. So I get over there and the Miss India pageant is during auditions in Punjab. That's where I was staying with my family. And they were like, oh my God, you should go. You would totally be a shoo-in. And I was like, I don't know anything about this. So I started like hearing enough about it because they were like promoting it there that I was like, oh, like this seems kind of fun actually. Ended up not being eligible because you had to be an Indian national. And I obviously wasn't. I was Canadian. So I was like, oh, that sucks. But I kind of got that bug. So when I came back to Canada, I was like, let me see if there's like something similar here. And that's where I ended up just getting into the pageant circuit. I did one local pageant totally had no experience, ended up placing as a runner up. And what I loved about that experience was it made me realize that when you're on stage, I hadn't spent a lot of time on stage, and I was like terrified. I remember that first pageant. I remember as soon as that opening song comes and you like walk out for the first time,
Right.
my legs were shaking. Like I've never had that happen to me now. My knees were like, I was like, I'm gonna fall. Like I was shaking so much. I was terrified. And after I did that, I was like, I cannot believe, like I was so scared. And then I got hooked because I'm like, this is a skill that I actually really need to develop. Like, how am I ever going to be successful if I cannot stand in front of people and just be myself? Right. So then I was like, okay, let me do pageants again. It was like the best training ever. So then Miss India Worldwide Canada was happening, and I applied for it and ended up winning. So now I was the Canadian Miss India Worldwide, which was really cool. I met a lot of cool people. And because of that title, I got to represent our country at the International Miss India pageant. So every year it's in a different country. That year it was in Africa. It was in South Africa. So again, this little girl from Winnipeg gets to go all the way to Africa. I probably would never have had that opportunity. Placed top 10 there. And I did a ton of media. That pageant like just was so huge. So after that whole pageant year was done, I was like, you know what? I have this bug. I feel like I enjoy media. I had been on sets, I've been interviewed, and I remember looking at the sets and being like, this is cool. Like seeing everybody work together. I did a bunch of live TV, and I was like, I think I want to work somewhere in media. I didn't think on air. I just thought the industry. So the IFAs were taking place here in Toronto, and I come back from India, and I was done my pageants, and I was like, hey, look how big the IFAs are in Toronto. And I'm like, you know what? If I'm going to make it anywhere, it's most likely going to be Toronto, right? I figured with my pageant connections, maybe I could get, some doors opened here. And literally, I just moved here, no job, didn't know really anyone. I had family here, but I didn't have any friends, didn't know the city. And I moved here and I just started knocking on doors. And then I ended up having a meeting with my first network who hired me on. And like my life changed forever.
So no, that's amazing. So that's an amazing story, and I wanna ask sort of a question that relates to what you just said, which is, whenever I have seen you do interviews or talk to other people, and I've noticed really carefully, you're not just very well spoken, you're very clear spoken, and you're also very correct spoken, right? You're very good with your words, and I think this will obviously help you in other things as well. But were you this way as a kid as well? Were you an introvert, or you always had that personality, the outspoken sort of the popular girl in the crowd sort of personality, or was it like, so what I'm trying to understand is, really, was there a big learning curve for you as to, hey, I can do this, or this kind of like came natural to you?
I think a little bit of both, because when I was in school, I was used to being the outgoing one. I'd always had friends. I was always friends with everybody. Everyone always said that, I had a really friendly personality. And it's funny because in school, I actually was in student politics. So I actually, in high school, I was doing it. And then in university, I did it. I had a bunch of different positions. So I was used to being a leader. I was used to leading people into something that I believed in. If it was from, offering business networking opportunities to, at one year, I was the president of the Marketing Association. Which was super fun, to, being on the committee for the business banquet. Like I did so many different things, and I feel like I always enjoyed it. I like people. I really like meeting people. The only thing I had to learn was being in the public eye. So it's one thing when you meet people and you're kind of just being yourself, right? But when you're on stage, like I was telling you, I was shocked at how nervous I was during that first pageant. And that's why I continued with pageants, because it wasn't like I was like, oh, I want to be a pageant girl for the rest of my life. I was like, I recognized that it was a fun experience. I met so many amazing girls, but I'm like, the skills that I learned from pageants, how do you, do live events? How do you carry yourself, right? How do you, like for the Q&A, you have to think on your feet, right? So those are things that school doesn't teach you. And I really, I think, improved my skills because of pageants. So now, not only do I like talking to people, but now I can talk to people regardless if I'm being filmed like this, or if I'm doing a live event, or if I'm just meeting someone privately.
Yeah, so tell me this, do you remember like one of the things when we think about a pageant, right? It's obviously beautiful women, but it's also intellectual women, right? And one of the things I think that helps the judges decide who's going to win is the answer that you give to the question you're asked. Do you remember the final question you were asked just by any chance, and also what you answered?
This is like 10 years. Okay. So I remember my first pageant really well because that was like such a shock to me. So the question I got from the judge was she asked me, this is not exact, but something about how people see India or call India a third world country. Um, do I agree with that? And why, like, why support that answer, right? Like, do I agree that India should be called a third world country? Yes or no, and why? So I remember, again, I don't remember exactly how she asked me that, but I remember when I heard her question, it was like I suddenly didn't know English. Like I literally was standing there and my brain was like, what? I don't understand. So luckily they repeat the question. So she repeated it again. And then I remember I was like so scared. I was like, oh my God, I can't just stand and freeze up, right? So I had a few tricks that I learned that I bought myself some time before my brain kind of kicked in. But yeah, that was a question for my first one. And then the one where I went for Miss India Worldwide, I don't really remember the question. If I think of it, I'll tell you, but I don't remember that one. The first pageant, I feel like I don't forget anything of that because that to me, like, just changed my life forever.
Awesome, awesome. That's amazing. That's amazing. What an inspirational story you have. And also again, a lot people can learn from sort of like looking at the blueprint that you designed from yourself for yourself, decisions that you took to moving to Toronto and looking at, a bigger city, more opportunities in Winnipeg. And again, that's an assumption. So please forgive me. Maybe Winnipeg has more opportunities, but again, these are tough decisions for you to leave your city, your hometown, and really going after what you're looking for. We've talked a little bit about the past, right? What you've done, and I know, yeah, that I know that you're planning to challenge yourself again,
Mm-hmm.
and this time with a biggie. You're entering politics. Tell us a little bit about what's going on. Why are you doing this? Why are you taking up this challenge? And how will you help people? Why are you the right fit?
So I'm actually glad you mentioned before of how my whole life I've put myself, I've challenged myself. And um, like I feel like because of the decisions I've made, putting myself in uncomfortable situations, I've grown a lot. So I give credit for every struggle, everything I had to do. Like, you know what it's like to go to a new city, you know what it's like to, start from scratch. It's not easy. And I am always honest with other people that usually ask me about my media career. I'm like, I made sacrifices. I moved here again, no guarantees, no job. I had no name and I just hit the ground running. And it was lonely. I had many nights where I cried thinking, am I making the right decision? Should I move back? Like, is this worth it? So luckily I stuck it out and now I'm in such a great position. But um, for years now, part of my job, like in case people haven't seen me on TV, so basically I'm a national TV host. And now I've taken some time off to just focus on my campaign, but my job was basically to cover anything that was of interest to the community. This was ethnic media, so usually anything that affected our community, the South Asian community. So I spent a lot of time in Brampton, just due to the fact that we have a lot of our community there, covering everything from, when we had just fun community celebrations to when we had issues like immigration fraud, to issues with our healthcare system, to issues with, for example, making sure that for example, our seniors that maybe don't speak English that are here, there's issues with, when they have dementia, when they have Alzheimer's, right? Like things like that, a lot of these mainstream agencies don't realize that they need to make sure that they create ads or commercials in Punjabi or Hindi or Urdu, right? Like things like that. So we've covered a lot. So it was great because I got to meet a lot of people. I got to always be in the field. So I got to really connect with the community. And that's where I remember I told you I enjoy talking to people. I love hearing people's stories. I love being able to find out what they're passionate about and be able to do something about it. So I became kind of a brand ambassador. A lot of people started to recognize me and turn to me for when they had problems or if they wanted promotion. And to this day, I still get people that reach out to me and say, hey, my mom is stuck in India, or I have questions about this. Can you put me in touch? Because they know I just know so many people that I can put them in touch, right? So while I was doing all this, people were always be like, why don't you ever run for in politics, right? Especially election times when I would be covering, a rally or something. I'd be like, hey, are you gonna vote? Like, are you supporting this person? People be like, no, I don't like this. Why don't you run, right? I've had other politicians even say this to me, like, because I've covered them, and they'd be like, you know what, you'd be fantastic. And I'd always laugh it off. But because I was involved in politics when I was younger, I was like, you know what? I think one day I will go in when I'm ready. So for me, when I want to do something, I'm like, I just started my media career. I'm like, there's so many things I want to do. I've done my podcast, my digital series. Like, I've been able to achieve a lot now. And during this pandemic, I had all this time to really reevaluate. And I thought, I'm at a time now in a stage where I've done a lot. And what's my next step? What am I going to do to now really feel like I'm doing something for the community? So when this opportunity came up, I was like, you know what? I think this is something I think I'm ready for. So I have a lot of contacts in politics and the various parties. I started just talking to people, asking them, what is it really like? Where would I fit in? What level of government? So people have to realize you can do community service in so many different ways. You can do it everything from being a school trustee to working with the city council to provincial to federal and so on. So I was like, where do I fit in? So I'm excited to say that I'm running federally for the Liberal Party. My family has been diehard Liberals. The reason why we even got a chance to immigrate here was because of the Liberal government at the time. So my family has always really been appreciative of that. And the opportunity to influence national policy is really exciting for me. So I'm running in the area of Brampton Center, which is very near and dear to me because I've spent a lot of time covering Brampton Center along with all the other ridings of Brampton. And so that's what I'm doing now. I'm doing the switch from media to politics in Brampton, and we'll see how it goes.
No, and you know what? As we were talking about this before we started this interview, that when you told me that you're entering politics, as someone representing people, you need to be somebody that can clearly, articulate or I should say transfer the voices of people to the higher authorities. And I think you would make such a fantastic person to be able to take that message to the right people and get things done. And also just knowing you personally as well, the kind of person you are, how supportive you have been, just not to me and kind of like helping me with what I'm trying to do, but with to some other people as well that I've spoken with. I think for you to be able to now help more people using this platform, when you win, I'm not going to say if you win, when you win, I think will be such an amazing thing for Brampton. So, before we let you go, obviously, I'd like to ask you, if people need to support you, who all can really support you, and where can they find you to be able to support you?
I'm actually really glad you asked me this question because every single one of us has been affected by this pandemic, right? Like the whole world has. And I know you and I are small business owners, and businesses have taken a hit. I know a lot of people right now have lost their jobs. I know a lot of the students, they had jobs lined up or school, that's all been on hold. So this is why this election is going to be really important. It's going to happen sooner than later, and it's really going to determine how we get back on our feet. So, so many people watching this may have received support from the government, right? Through SERP, through, a business grant. That's because of our government, right? So the fact that we've been able to pull through to this pandemic pretty well, I think, compared to other countries, I think that's due to our strong government, to our strong leaders. So with this next election, I really just want to encourage everybody watching this, like, please get involved. Please don't be like, oh, I need more support, or I don't like this, but don't do anything about it. That's not what we want to do, right? We live in a country where we want you to vote, right? So this upcoming nomination, that's how you get to choose who your Liberal candidate is going to be. So basically, there's all these parties, right? In case someone's new watching this here in Canada, the election, we don't know when it's going to be, but each party is going to have their official candidate ready to go. So the Liberal Party is hosting their nomination meeting soon. And anyone in Brampton Center, if you have your address in Brampton Center and you're 14 years and up, you can vote, you're eligible. And it's really easy. It's free, first of all. All you have to do is go to my website, which is voteamindhillon.com. There's a form there. You fill it out with your information just to confirm your identity and where you live. And that's it. You send it. And then when the nomination meeting gets called, you will get an email from the Liberal Party explaining how you can cast your vote. And this year it's going to be online.
Awesome. So from what I understand is if you are 14 years and up and you live in Brampton and you have an address in Brampton, then you
Yes, yeah.
can then they can support you. So people and everybody that's watching the video, the link, Amin's website's link will be in the description box below. Make sure you go there. And if you like what Amin has said and what she plans to do, please make sure you go and support her. I do want to ask you a question. There's a selfish reason that I have, when you become what you're trying to become, which is I would have a friend that I can now call and be like, hey, I'm in trouble. So I want to ask you a question. What's your selfish reason of doing what you're doing now? Right? It could be, again, a legacy you want to leave. It could just be that more money. It could be more helping more people. But I want to know what's your selfish reason and how maybe it relates to any legacy that you want to leave, and what would that be?
So being in media and having interviewed tons of politicians, I have to be objective, but oftentimes off the record, we would be like, oh, that guy didn't know what he was talking about. And honestly, we've seen some not so great politicians that literally I would be asking questions and you could tell they didn't know what the issue was. I was like telling them some stuff because I didn't want them to look bad. That's why I was like shocked that there's, as much as we say, people that get into politics should do it for the right reasons, we know not everyone does. So, I've been on the sidelines and I was somebody that thought, oh, like I have a great career. Why do I need to change and do this, right? But now I'm just at a point right now where I'm like, you know what, I've got the skills. I know I have the voice for the community. I know people look up to me and trust me. I'm like, this is a privilege. And if I can do something for the community, which in fact does benefit me and my family too, right? So if it's going to be selfish, it's like, I look at people like my mom. I look at people like my family members. I look at the next generation of my, nieces and nephews. And I'm thinking, what kind of world are we creating? And I feel like every time, and you follow me on Instagram, I'm always like, oh, this is so sad, tragedy here. Oh, so sad. We should help here. I'm like, I'm tired of always just saying, oh, that's so sad. I'm like, I want to be able to have a seat at the table so that I can actually have a say and take action, right? So instead of saying like, we need to take care of, our newcomers. Where are the supports? We need to take care of our veterans. We need to take care of our seniors. I just don't want to say that and say, here, maybe somebody else will take care of it. I want to be like, okay, you know what? I can actually do something about it. So that is really my reason for joining this. I think I've got the experience. I know I've got the passion, and it's just a matter of, this nomination happened to come now. I am so pumped to do this. I'm ready to do this. And I'm excited that if I get this opportunity to win and especially get into the election and win the seat for the Liberals again, I could do so much for the community. And that's what really excites me.
No, that is amazing. And I hope people have heard that. They understand that. They'll go and support you. Outside of your link, where can people go and follow you on social media? What's your what's the social media handle that you use the most and where you'd like people to go and follow you?
I'm very active on social media. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, just look up Amin Dhillon. Amin is spelled with an I. So that's, how it's a little bit different. Just look me up, even Google me. I think everything pops up if you just Google me. And yeah, come connect with me. And one of the things that really sets me apart, I think, from especially the other people that are running is I already am used to having this open relationship with people, right? My DMs are always open. I usually respond to comments too. So I like being available and accessible to people. So, I know some people might be watching this being like, I want to know what she's going to do for me. And maybe they have a problem. Like, I am here to listen, right? I mean, I'm not right now officially running, but I mean, if I do get the opportunity to win the nomination, like I would like to know what are the issues that we're going to work on. So please reach out to me if there's something that right now is happening. Maybe I can even connect you with the right person that can help you. But that is something that I plan to do. As somebody in politics, I think you need that open door policy. You need to be accessible. You need to be not afraid to hear what the people you're representing want from you, right? Even if you think you do a good job, there's always ways that you can improve. So please reach out, connect with me, follow me, and yeah, I'm looking forward to connecting with you.
So, I'm not going to let you leave this interview without asking you a question, um, assuming you're a politician already. So, this will be your first question as a politician if you haven't been asked one. It's tough times going on. People are not finding enough things to be inspired.
Mhm.
Media is hard, politics is hard. You've been through so many hardships that I don't think that this was something different for you, and I think that's why you really kind of like speared through it and you're still so positive. So I want to ask you this question for, on the behalf of all the people that are watching this and that are not able to find an inspiration right now. How do you stay inspired, and how can people in these times stay inspired? MP Amin, please tell us.
This is another good question. Honestly, if I'm going to be really honest, I struggled with it too. Like this pandemic really sort of messed with my mental health too, because I wasn't used to all of a sudden having my whole sort of career up in the air, right? Like I'm used to always having events. I'm used to having constant interviews. My whole schedule, there's seasons. I know what's coming up. All of that got canceled or postponed. And so I remember being like, what is the future going to be? So it was really, really hard for me. And I'll admit, like, there were times when I was like really down, but one thing I've learned is you got to pick yourself up. So I think, that's something that I think we all go through. I don't know one person that has it all together. And then I think it's something really important to remember. No one has it all figured out, right? We're all just trying to do the best that we can. So my inspiration actually is my mom. I've mentioned her several times on my social media. She's quite popular, Mama Dhillon. And for those of you that don't know the story, so my mom raised me as a single mom. My father passed when I was 3. So our family's all over the place. And, now that I'm older and I'm independent, I'm like, wow, I can't imagine having a child and trying to do my career and do all these things and have this person dependent on you. And the fact that my mom, came to this country with, she didn't know anyone. She got married. She left her parents' village, came to this country. There was no Google back then. I'm like, I applaud her so much for taking those risks. And because of those risks, we have the life that we have now, right? So every time I'm kind of like feeling sorry for myself, where I'm like, oh, boohoo, I have it so tough. I'm like, no, I don't. I can call anyone. I can video chat. Remember back in the day, to call back to India cost so much money that you had to call like once a week or something, right?
Buy cards, expensive cards.
Yeah, you had to get the calling cards, and we're like, now it's like free. You have Wi-Fi, video call back home, right? And so, I just feel very fortunate that my mom made all these sacrifices so I could be here. And so anytime I think I'm having it tough, I'm like, no, I didn't go marry a man and move across the world, having never seen it, leaving my family behind, trying to now learn a new language, a new way of life, right? Like that's tough. So I appreciate everything that my mom's done for me, and she inspires me every day to just always do better, because I know that's what would make her really proud.
So, we wish you all the best. I don't think that you need our wishes. I think you make an excellent candidate. I think people can really see how sincere, how honest, how passionate you are in what you're trying to do. And, most importantly, when I look at you, you look like a doer to me. You're somebody that'll get things done.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is so important, to get things done. You'll find a way to solve a problem. You will be given a problem. You're not going to ask a question, hey, how do you solve this problem? I think you're somebody that'll be like, okay, it's my job to solve this problem, and I'll figure out how to do that. So, I really, I've already manifested in my mind that you are, going to be representing my city where I live as well. I'd love to have that. But again, on behalf of my audience and the whole of Brampton, we wish you luck. And I would like to hear the good news very soon.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your support. And just a quick reminder to everybody, the nomination meeting's coming up. So don't delay, get registered, go on the website and make your vote count.
Thank you so much, Amin, for joining us. Have a good one.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Don't go anywhere. Keep watching more of the Sabby BG show by clicking on these videos right here. Before you leave, may I humbly request you to hit that subscribe wala button and hit that bell so you don't miss a single episode of India's #1 Vox Pop show from abroad. your favorite, the Sabby BG Show. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video. And remember, I love you.